Hey guys, by Austin Ramos, and today I'm going to be bringing you the Miami Dolphins third quarter of the season review. Basically their last 4 games summed up into the third quarter of the season. It goes first 4, second 4, third 4, and then lastly the fourth quarter of the season, 4 games. And that's what we're going to be heading to next, but that will be for the next time I do one of these videos. So without further ado, let's review these past 4 games.
Miami has the Dolphins, the greatest football team.
So the Miami Dolphins came into the third quarter of the season at, I believe, what was it? I feel like stupid now. Okay. So the Miami Dolphins came into the third quarter of the season being 1-7, just finally getting their first win before the first half of the season was over against the New York Jets. And following that, their first game, they played the Indianapolis Colts, which was on my birthday. Shout out to the Dolphins for winning on my birthday. Final score was 16-12. It wasn't a very highly offensive game. It was very defensively set. The Dolphins just had a lot of control in this game, and they got a lot of pressure on Brian Hoyer, and that's what set up the Dolphins to win this game. And it was pretty good. The highlighted stats is Ryan Fitzpatrick, 21 of 33, 169 yards, 1 interception. Meanwhile, Brian Hoyer went 18 of 39, 204 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. The Dolphins had a great defensive game that day. Kalen Ballage was their leading rusher, 20 carries for 43 yards. He's just not doing so good. He's pretty much on pace to be historically one of the worst backs in football, and it sucks because he's a Miami Dolphin and this and that. But he just needs to start doing better. Not too sure. And let's see what else. Marlon Mack had 19 carries for 74 yards. I mean, that's what I'd hope we would get production out of Kalen Ballage and so on, but that's not the case. And Devontae Parker was our leading reception leader with 5 receptions, 69 yards to Eric Ebron's 5 receptions, 56 yards for the Colts. And the scoring summary went field goal Dolphins, touchdown Dolphins, field goal, touchdown Colts, and then the Dolphins sealed off the game with 2 field goals, putting them in prime position to win the game. Field goal to take the lead, it was 10-12, and then Dolphins kicked the field goal, 13-12, and then we kicked another field goal to put it in touchdown only territory, and Dolphins prevailed and held off for the win, and it was very good. It was a very awesome time. Dolphins left Indianapolis being 2-7. Great win for the Dolphins. Yes, they did not have Jacoby Brissett, but pretty much had everyone else besides pretty much T.Y. Hilton, I'd per se. But that's pretty much it. So, without saying that, I mean, yeah, Dolphins did pretty good. I don't think they also had Paris Campbell, rookie receiver out of Ohio State. But besides that, great win for the Miami Dolphins, setting off this third quarter of the season right. But then, come back home down to Miami to play the Buffalo Bills, who were 7-3 at the time, and well, actually they were 6-3, and couldn't get the win here. Dolphins lost 37-20, and wasn't so good. The Bills were pretty much in control for a good majority of the first half of the game. Field goal, touchdown, field goal. So 16-0, and then the Dolphins brought it close because then they scored a touchdown, 16-17. Then the Bills another touchdown, 23-7, and then Dolphins answered with another touchdown with 14 seconds left on the clock, and that was a touchdown to Jakeem Grant, kickoff return, electrifying, and could have propelled us to having a greater game, but that was not the case because after halftime, the score was 23-14, by the way. And then after halftime, Bills touchdown, Dolphins touchdown, Bills touchdown. Dolphins could not catch a break in this game. And the Bills were looking pretty legit. They are still looking pretty legit. They just had a big win against the Dallas Cowboys last week. And let's see what they do this week. Let me see who they are playing. They are playing the Ravens. Oh man, I said this is going to be a good game. And it is. That's going to be a very good game. Let's see who prevails as a winner out of that one. Me and Matt both picked Baltimore, though. But that's nonetheless. The stat leaders of this game was Josh Allen, 21 for 33 yards. 21 of 33 completions, for 256 yards, 3 touchdowns, to Ryan Fitzpatrick's 32 of 45, 323. And then leading rushers were Devin Singletary, 15 carries for 75 yards. And then Kalen Ballage, 9 carries, 9 yards, 1 touchdown. 9 yards was our leading rusher. I mean, that's how it shows how much our rushing game has been horrendous this season in general. I know our offensive line is not that good, but our running backs are nothing to amaze anyone. It's not completely the offensive line's fault. Running backs need to find the holes, get into places, and we'll see what happens in the future games when I go over pretty much what happened last week. But then for the Buffalo Bills, leading reception leader was John Smokey Brown, and he went for 9 receptions, 137 yards, 2 touchdowns, to Devontae Parker's 7 receptions, 135 yards. That was one of Parker's pretty great games, honestly. He's been having a pretty decent season, and yeah, I've been liking what I've been seeing out of Devontae Parker. Total yards offensively, we got outgained by 121 yards by the Bills. We had a turnover, and time of possession was pretty good. 30.9 for the Bills, 30 minutes and 9 seconds for the Bills, 29 minutes, 51 seconds for the Dolphins. So it was pretty much dead split even. But the Bills beat us first downs wise, 22 to Miami Dolphins 19, and not a good feeling in the Dolphins locker room after that loss, especially because they're going up to face an old friend of theirs, Jarvis Landry, in the Cleveland Browns the following week. And man, I was at this game and it was not so good for the Dolphins. I was happy because my main reason of going to that game was just to watch Jarvis Landry play. He was one of my favorite players when he was part of the Dolphins. He was one of pretty much the big reasons why I've pretty much fallen in love with football. He electrified the game for me, and it was just something that totally changed my outlook on why I liked football and whatnot. But final score of this game was 24-41. Cleveland Browns taking the win, and Dolphins falling to 2-9, and the Browns going up to 5-6. Not a good season for the Browns. They had a lot of playoff hope, potential, hype, whatever you want to say, leading into this season, and so far it just has been horrendous for them. It's not what they've wanted at all, and it sucks for them because they had a mediocre season last year. They were a game or two away from the playoffs, and thinking, okay, we did this last year, let's see what we can carry over, and then nothing really transpires in the following season. That really sucks because I can relate to that because the Dolphins went 10-6 first year with Evan Gase, and then unfortunately the injury that Ryan Tannehill suffered had pretty much derailed our season because he got injured in training camp, and then we had to pick up Jay Cutler and went 6-10, pretty much polar opposite record, and pretty much no progress was made, and then the team just started collapsing within itself pretty much right after that. So all that being said, let's get back to the topic. Scoring drives, touchdown, 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 Browns. It was 28-0 before the Dolphins even got a point on the board, but we got a field goal with no time left in the half. It was pretty good. Literally drove down the field, had no timeouts, spiked the ball with literally 1 second left. Jason Sanders kicked the field goal. That was great. That was great. It gave some morale to the Miami Dolphins. And then they came out in the second half, scored 2 touchdowns, had some life, but wasn't enough. So following that, the Browns went field goal, touchdown, and then the Dolphins had a field goal, but it was too little, too late for the Miami Dolphins. Now, when you go over the stats, Ryan Fitzpatrick went 21 of 39, 214 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, to Baker Mayfield's 24 of 34, 327 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. And let's go over our rushing leaders. Dolphins rushing leader for this game was Ryan Fitzpatrick. 5 carries, 45 yards, and 1 touchdown on his birthday. Good for you, Patrick. Good for you. For the Browns, though, it was Nick Chubb, real running back, and he went 21 carries for 106 yards and 1 touchdown. And then our leading receiver was Devontae Parker, 6 receptions, 91 yards. To Jarvis Landry, had a monstrous game, 10 receptions, 148 yards, 2 touchdowns. Wow. I mean, the Browns couldn't have asked for a better game out of Jarvis Landry. So, we got outgained by the Browns almost by 200 yards. 284 to Miami, to Cleveland's 467. So it was pretty close to almost getting outgained, about 180 around there. Turnovers, Dolphins had 2, Cleveland had 1. Possession of time was 23 minutes, 54 seconds for the Dolphins, 36 minutes and 6 seconds for the Browns. First downs, Miami had 22, Cleveland had 30. Now, with all of that being said, let's take it over to the final game of the third quarter of the season, and it's when the Miami Dolphins faced off the Philadelphia Eagles at home in Miami, and a lot of people were counting out the Dolphins in this one. The Eagles were a very high possibility of winning, and guess what? Dolphins did not lose this game. They won 31-37, defending home field and having an electrifying game. It was back and forward, and you never really know, you never knew who was going to win this game until the final whistle was pretty much blown. And that being said, it was amazing to watch. Now, all that being said, let's go over some stats. Carson Wentz, 28 for 46, 310 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. And then meanwhile, Ryan Fitzpatrick, 27 of 39, 365 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception to, was Ronald Darby, I believe, was the guy who picked it off. Literally, like, first play of the game. We down the field, kickoff, first pass, first play, interception, and I was like, oh my god, it's gonna be one of those games. But Dolphins prevailed. Miles Sanders was the Eagles' leading rusher. He had 17 carries, 83 yards, and then Albert Wilson was our leading rusher. Albert Wilson, 2 carries for 31 yards. Our running game has not been good whatsoever. It's just the facts. It's just the facts. That we have a wide receiver being our leading rusher. And then the previous game, it was our quarterback. That just shows you our offensive line isn't so good, and running backs are not so good either. Even some of the best running backs can make way with a decent O-line. But yeah, Alshon Jeffrey leading reception, 9 receptions, 137 yards, 1 touchdown. And Devontae Parker, 7 receptions, 159 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had himself a game. And let's go over a scoring summary. Touchdown Eagles, field goal Eagles, then touchdown Dolphins, field goal Eagles, touchdown Dolphins, and then the Eagles closed off the half at 6 seconds left with a touchdown. And the halftime score was 21-14. Now, the Eagles came out and scored a touchdown right after the half, another touchdown, making it 28-14. Then the Dolphins came back with 2 touchdowns of their own, making it 28-26, taking the lead. Actually, no, being down by 2. Some failed 2-point conversions. Just wasn't good for the Dolphins. And also, Jason Sanders missed a field goal. That's why we did the 2-point conversion, and it didn't work out. And then Dolphins in the 4th quarter. Touchdown, field goal, and then the Eagles had a field goal, and Carson Wentz chucked up a Hail Mary to the end zone, and we picked it off to close off the game. That's where the interception for Carson Wentz came from. So pretty much he was having a decent game, but could not finish the game. Total yards, Philadelphia 386 to Miami Dolphins 409. This is one of the first games I think we've outgained somebody. Turnovers, it was 1 on each side, and then time of possession, Dolphins got time of possession there. 28 minutes, 42 seconds for the Eagles, 31-18 for the Dolphins. First downs, 23 Philadelphia, 26 Miami Dolphins, and that finally puts the Miami Dolphins at 3-9. Eagles went down to 5-7, and they're still in contention for playoffs because the NFC East has been horrendous. Okay, all of that being said, Miami Dolphins' 4th quarter of the season is fastly approaching us. We have 4 more weeks of football for the Miami Dolphins, guaranteed, because there's no playoffs for the Dolphins. They have been officially eliminated with the great performances of the Bills and the Patriots, and then the rest of the AFC. Yeah, basically. So, that being said, Dolphins this Sunday have the Jets 1 o'clock. Then they have the Giants 2 weeks in a row in New York. And then we come back home for the season finale of our home games of the Tank Bowl against the Bengals. Hopefully the Bengals can sneak a game or two in there of wins. And maybe the Dolphins slip into the first pick. Who knows? Who knows? So I'm saying, you just got to wait till that week comes. And then we close off the season at New England. And if things maybe align, Dolphins could be hurting New England's chances if they get a win that week. Because the Bills are looking so good right now. And if they keep this ball rolling, the Dolphins could really mess up the Patriots' playoff seeding. But be a very hard task. Last game of the season in Foxborough, and the Patriots will most likely be leading the division. So we'll see what the Dolphins do. But pretty much that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a nice thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. Click the post notification bell option. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at @ByAustinRamos. And lastly, check out ByAustinRamos.com. And last but not least, fins up.
Miami has the Dolphins, the greatest football team.